Thank you guys for joining in. This is Marci Lynn Jackson. I want you to subscribe. So you can hit that subscribe button on Marci Lynn Jackson on my YouTube channel. You can follow me on marcilynnjackson.com. I promised you that I would do my best to gather pertinent content to help you along your journey. And I've always said, I've often said that transformation is not easy, but it is necessary. And so I was randomly scrolling through Instagram one day, and I came across a post from my photographer. And he's more than a photographer. He's my bestie's son, so he's nephew. Okay, and I came across his post. He had not said anything to me or us about it, and the post read, it was the sweatshirts that he was about to launch, and it was called Boys Don't Cry. But when you swiped, you read his story about how he came up with the concept Boys Don't Cry. And in that concept, it just floored me and it brought tears to my eyes because it was so relevant to what my message is and what my story has been. And so I'm gonna let him tell you himself, and we're gonna talk about it in hopes that it will resonate with you as it did with myself, and also touched me to even reach out to my family to check on them. To check on them to see how they're doing. I've said before in messages that I've said that I've talked about was check on your strong friends, but we can also say check on your strong kids and make sure that they're okay. Because in life we don't realize the things that we pour into our children is just been passed down to us because that's what we were taught. But it's not necessarily conducive to the way that society is today, and it can send our children in a whole nother on a whole nother path. Just like us, if we look back on our lives and see the way that we've gone, and we would ask ourselves, you know, how did we get here? And it's usually been by the way that we thought, or how we were trained, or how we were raised to think about life and how we were supposed to cope. And so, without further ado, I'm going to introduce you to, as you may see, because I tag him as Driven Image, but his name is Shedrick Collins. And look at him, he's so cute, little self. Big man, I guess. But I want him to tell his story, and I want him to tell you how he came up with the concept Boys Don't Cry. And if you're probably wondering why we're wearing these sweatshirts, but I'm gonna let him tell you.
Okay, well, my name is Shedrick Collins, like she stated. My social media is at Driven Image, and my clothing brand is the Blase Co. So Boys Don't Cry, it kind of came about just kind of having one of those days where I was just kind of down and out and just having a hard time kind of coping with my mental health, and just had a lot on my mind. And usually when a lot is on my mind, I'm a creative, so to clear my space, I do creative things. I try to come with new concepts, whether it's photography, new designs for my clothing, just whatever it is, usually around 2 to 3 o'clock in the morning. And you know, just sitting there overwhelmed in my emotions, I just kind of came up with the thought of Boys Don't Cry. And it kind of generated from the song, what is it, Big Girls Don't Cry, by Taylor Swift.
Or something, yeah.
It's somebody like that. And it just kind of rolled in my head, and I just kind of thought of Boys Don't Cry, and I just thought about like how many times I heard that in my life, like boys don't cry, you know, whether it was something small as, you know, getting hurt at a little league game, and it's like, get up, man, your boys don't cry, you know, or, you know, siblings take some candy from you or something, you crying, whatever. But you know, it just always kind of resonated with me how young men's emotions kind of have always been taught to just kind of put to the side or suppressed. And you know, and whereas, you know, women are so intact with their emotions, and it's like, well, we see that as being emotional and sentimental, then as for us, it's just like we have to be hard, tough, we have to have this outer shell, and it's like we're defending ourselves constantly, mentally and physically, because we have to put on this front even when, you know, we do have emotions, or we are sad, or we are feeling alone or bothered, or, you know, not really knowing what the path is that we want to take. And that's kind of where I was all month of August. And in the beginning of the month, I lost a very close friend. So it was just kind of, I don't know, I just kind of had that mental aspect of like, you know, she was young and when she passed, you know, it seemed like she fulfilled so many good things while she was here, and it's just like, you know, I want to do the same, and I feel like I'm lost in my journey. So, you know, again, Boys Don't Cry, it came from it originated, like I said, from that song, and what it means to me is that, you know, ideally, I guess it's a message to myself to be vulnerable to emotion and be able to express myself and talk about my issues and everything like that. So the red, the colors in the shirt, just to read it, says Boys Don't Cry, the Blase Company, and then there's a black rose. So the white resonates with being clean and cleanliness, health, and things like that. Red is a symbolism for love, and the black rose is a symbolism of the death of old habits. And when I say the death of old habits, it's just getting out of that cycle of, you know, kind of putting my feelings to the side instead of dealing with them or handling my issues, and just so I'm not kind of overburdening myself with emotion. And I don't know, it just kind of all came about. Just like I said, 2 o'clock in the morning, it meant a lot to me, and then I put it on social media, and I kind of told my story a little bit just about how I was dealing with depression, anxiety, stuff like that, and you know, it just kind of blew up from there.
You know, one of the things that I think about with you, and the first thing that that resonated with me with what you said even now, is that you feel lost in your journey, and not being able to, I guess, find your way, or getting to a point in life where you're at this crossroad and being a creative, trying to figure out what do you do next, or how can what you're doing produce the kind of life you want, and being lost in that. What do you think? Because what I don't want to do is tell you everything that you need to do. Some of this you have to be able to think through on your own. And in that, I think you'll find out what those old habits are that you need to get rid of or to readjust. I think you will find out what it is that need to go, what you need to keep, and what needs to change, I guess, or figure out. The first part of that would be to talk that through. How do you think you got there to feel lost? Like, what was your expectations? What did you think it would be?
I think social media kind of put a stance on my expectations, like kind of seeing, you know, so many young people, entrepreneurs and stuff be successful is like, I don't know, it's just kind of like, you know, you kind of think and hope, like, you know, when is my opportunity, when's my turn? You start putting things on, you know, your timing instead of God's timing. And you know, I'm not necessarily saying I know where I would be at 23 years old, but you know, I would think that, you know, I would have my opportunity to be successful. And it's just like, when I'm not feeling like I'm striving towards being successful, you know, I get down on myself, and I kind of feel like, you know, I'm not moving at the pace that I should, you know, and it's just like, I kind of get lost in that journey. And you know, most importantly for me, it was just to, you know, kind of stay in my own lane, you know, not kind of watch what everybody else got going on.
What everybody else is doing.
Exactly.
So then, do you know what your lane is? Like, how would you define success? How do you know what's successful? Because, like, if you are looking at what someone else is doing and it's looking like, man, they have it going on, they have hundreds of thousands of followers, or whatever the case may be, if we're going to correlate this with social media. Yeah. What is it how are you defining success?
And I think that's the stigma, is that, you know, how I define success is what I've seen on social media is like money, car, clothes, stuff like that. I feel like that looks like success because we were brought up in a way that was the image of what success looked like to us. So it's just like, you know, I don't have the nice cars, the shoes, the clothes, the girls, the this, the that, whatever it may come with success, you know, and I don't have that, and I that's the image I constantly see towards success. That's what predominantly the black community looks at success, you know. To say
you are successful.
Exactly.
You know, that is, I'm gonna say that's the truth. Yeah. However, that's not the core of success.
Oh yeah.
It's not the core of success, and I think that's where we get lost in it, because I think when you do get those things, and if you do hear people who are successful, who you would deem as successful, like let's look at celebrities, when you do get these things, then what?
Exactly. I get it.
Then what is it? Like when you're not whole, or when you're not happy, or when you're not at peace with all the things that you have, then what? The best thing that I can say, you know, in you trying to define your journey, and define success in your journey, like what is the end state? When will you know that what you're doing is successful? When will you deem it successful? Because I'm going to be honest with you, that is what society looks at, but the truth of the matter is, it really is the confidence in the person who is successful that they look at the most.
Yeah.
Because that's what people lack the most. That's what is not sustainable. The happiness that the person feels. And I guess at 43, I feel that now. I do feel the thought of, you know, you can have the house, the cars, and all of those things. And I know in my story that if you've read my blog or anything, if you've followed me, you know that I've talked about these things to be at this stage in my life where I have had what you would consider successful, and got there, couldn't sustain it because I couldn't sustain my own personal peace in it. So then when I started to crumble, all the things that I had crumbled, and I couldn't keep them. I couldn't keep it up. I couldn't keep it up because I'm going to say mental health. I didn't have the stamina mentally to be able to sustain what I considered, or what society would consider as success. And so my message has changed.
Yeah. My
message for the people that I speak with, to minister to, my message for myself has changed. That redefine what success is for you.
Yeah.
Redefine it. And at 23, I think it would be a really good time or an opportunity for you to do that. It's what I tell everybody that's connected to me, because it's not life isn't what you think it is. Life is what you make it. And how to talk through that is, how do you think about life? If you think about life as money, cars, and things of that nature, but you can't obtain it right now, then what would life mean to you? Do you understand what I mean?
Yeah.
Because somebody else can look at you and think you're successful.
Yeah.
And you should be happy and consider you ungrateful, because look at you, you got this going for you, and look at the exposure that you have and the platform that you've been given, and think that you're successful, but honestly you're thinking that you're not. But do you think that that's more of inner peace?
Yeah, I think that is inner peace, and I think it's I guess the goals that I set for myself as well, you know, whereas like you say, you know, somebody could be on the outside looking in and say, well, that's what success looks like to them, for me. But for me, what I may have is not what success looked like for me. It's not the goal that I set
for yourself,
for me to say, hey, I'm successful, you know. And I mean, of course, I'm still young, I'm still hungry, I'm grinding right now, and you know, I'm doing all the dirty work. And you know, I don't feel unsuccessful. I think mentally I just get down on myself because you know, whereas I think I should be in a certain place, you know, that God doesn't have that for me right now, you know, that's just not where I am. And it's just like, well, I'm trying to rush it so I can be successful, so I can, you know, pay for things, pay for my son to go to school, do stuff like that. And it's just like, well, if I don't have that constant income, it's like the outcome for me is you know, I get down on myself. It's like sad. Yeah.
You know, I think the part that maybe you may be missing in your journey is it's considered a rite of passage. And that rite of passage is, there is some work that you have to do to be able to get there.
Yeah.
Have you ever heard, or like we look at celebrities like Justin Bieber and things, people like that, where they experience success very quickly, and what you're considering success is money, cars, and that lifestyle, right? And they get it very quickly, and they fold under pressure because they didn't have the muscles to be able to sustain it. Yeah. They couldn't keep it. They couldn't hold up under the kind of pressure or the weight. Their knees buckled because the weight of the success was heavy. Yeah. And so I know for sure that God doesn't intend for us to lose anything that He gives us. He says, I will withhold no good thing from you. Every good and perfect gift comes from above. In other words, it is how He wants us to live. So all of those things that you see that you want and you are calling success, is a part of what God's life is for you.
Yeah.
That's his will for you, that you would prosper and be in good health, even as your soul prospers. In other words, I want you to have these material things, but I want as much material things as you want or that you get. I want your soul to be just as weighty. And so that when you get it, it doesn't fold, because you can hold it, you can keep it. And the part of that is being grounded and rooted in knowing what success is to you, knowing who you are, checking off these things on your journey that you see or calling successful, and trying to live a life of gratitude, because as you go on your journey, you do look back and see, I have accomplished more than what I thought. And as I'm accomplishing more than what I thought, like the scripture, I will that you may prosper and be in good health as your soul prospers. I will that you would get these things. I want you also to be able to be strong enough to sustain these things. It's not his will that you lose it. And so I think the part that you may miss is how you think about the journey, how you think about the way that you have to go. And I would call it the rite of passage. At your graduation party, when I got up and spoke to you, that was what I said. In that rite of passage, there is going to be a dark hallway that you are going to go through that is going to feel lonely. I didn't go into depth there, but it's going to feel lonely. It's going to feel scary. It's going to feel unusual. Like it's not going to be familiar to you. It's not going to be familiar to you because it's the hallway that you will have to go through in that time by yourself. And in that hallway by yourself, that's when you're going to have to remember all the childhood lessons that you learned, the things that your parents taught you. And during that time of saying, okay, get up, you can get up, boys don't cry. The misinterpretation of that is you may cry, but you still will have to get up. You can't stay there. Not necessarily to be, to not be in touch with your emotions, not to feel what you feel, because what you feel is real. It is scary. Life is scary. Uncertainty is scary. Not being able to pay a bill and you know that it's all dependent on you. You have a son, you know, that's scary. You know, if you miss a payment on child support, it's scary. If he's looking at you and he's asking you something that you don't have the answer for, that's scary. But during that time in that hallway, when you learning those life lessons and remembering what you've gone through in your past, when you're saying, you know, at that game, get up, don't cry. It wasn't to say don't cry and not be in touch with your emotions. It was to say you're gonna feel this, you are gonna be scared, but then you're gonna have to keep going. It's not gonna stop right here. And if you stop right here, you're gonna change the trajectory of your life. You're not going to be able to see the success that you see as being successful. You won't see it because you would have stopped. And let me give you a vision of what stopping looks like. When you came, or if you're going down south to your studio and you look under the bridge, and those people, some of those people were just like you. And somewhere along the line, they stopped. They turned to other ways to cope. It could have been drugs. You know, it could have been alcohol. It could have been just disassociating with their families, and they fell on hard times and gave up. That's stopping. But get up, dry your eyes, keep going. It's not you not being in touch with your emotions. It's you, someone saying to you, you can't stop. You gotta keep going. You know, and I think that's been the biggest lesson that I've learned. And it's what I've been implementing this entire year, the year 2019. Because in 2018, or the beginning of 2018, after everything that I had gone through in life, everything that I had experienced, all of my successes came to a head when I decided that I wanted to stop. Because you know, life's not going to be easy. It's not going to be easy, and sometimes it can be more weight than what you can bear. You know, I've had to remember to get up. Even if I'm crying or I'm sad or I'm upset about something, I had to remind myself to get up. You know, to understand that what I'm going through, it'll pass. That dark hallway won't always be dark. I won't always have to be in the hallway. I can go into whatever room or door that's open for me. That was God's will for our life. It's what he wants for us. But he wants us to be strong enough to be able to withstand those things that we may come up against. I love the concept, but what I want you to know above all things, it is completely normal to feel those ways. And I wanted to come alongside of you just to say that. To feel like that is normal. You have to remember the part where as a parent, a mother or a father that says, get up, don't cry, or get yourself together, is hidden behind the message of just saying, you got to keep going. It's not gonna always be that way. And God won't put more on you than what you can bear. And I know that's cliche-ish, but it is scripture. And I lean on that because that's what I know to be true. That's what has been tried and true in my life. But this is when you implement it. Have you ever gone to church and you hear the sermon and you don't know where it would apply in your life? Have you ever thought about that? Like, where do I put this? Where do I put this sermon? Have you ever thought about that?
Yeah.
You put it in those dark hallways. You put it in that 2 o'clock in the morning when you say, okay, I'm gonna work on, I'm gonna express my energies and I want it to be positive, but then how do I do it? And is this going to manifest in success for me? That's when you put that sermon into practice and say, I'm going to trust you, God. I'm gonna trust that what you've given me, this creative soul that you've given me, I'm gonna trust that it's going to be something for me and it's gonna yield what I'm asking for it to yield. That's reaping and sowing. And it's not always money. Do you understand that?
I do.
Yeah. Reaping and sowing, I was talking to someone not too long ago about reaping and sowing and how we talk about reaping and sowing being monetary things. But it can also be your love. It can also be your creativity. You sow creativity, you get creativity back. You sow love, you get love back. You understand what I'm saying? What you think about that?
I think that's definitely good. I mean, it sounds good. Like it I don't know. I think you put in something, you put in the time in something. I mean, you get the quality of what you put the time in for.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, that definitely makes sense. I mean, putting time into your mental health and stuff, and investing in yourself or taking care of yourself physically, however, like you'll sow whatever that is that you put into it. If you go to the gym and work out every day, you'll sow the benefits of gaining muscle, losing weight. So I mean, that's I mean, it's chronological and it makes sense.
Everything that you're doing is going to yield the results that you want in due season. You rely on God to help you in the meantime, and you trust that if He says that I will that you may prosper and be in good health, that if He could, in the scriptures it also said, if I called you to this, I qualified you for it. I send the provision for it. I'm going to help you through it. And to trust in that, in those tight spots. It's in those tight spots that you learn that God is going to do what He said He was going to do.
Adversity.
Absolutely. Is the friend.
Exactly.
You don't run from it. You lean into it. And so that's why I like this concept, Boys Don't Cry. And knowing that you can lean into your emotions. You can lean into how you feel. If you are afraid, lean into it. I think when you run from it and you shut it down, that's when it lasts longer. That's when the hallway gets longer. The stretch gets longer. But lean into it, and find your way through it. You anything you want to say?
No.
What you think?
So.
Does this feel weird talking about it?
No, I don't feel weird. I'm good. I mean, I would like to say that, if there are men out there, or men or women, young or old, that are dealing with mental health, like to reach out to, somebody that you can talk to, whether it's a preacher, whether it's a friend or family member. Like, I mean, mental health is very important. And I know in the Black community, like, it's something that it's a stigma, and we're so bad about going to the doctor or going to a therapist or a counselor. We're so bad about those things, and just so if it's just anyone that you can talk to get something off your chest, or just release those emotions, like, I really encourage people to do that.
Absolutely. How has it been to you to talk about it? How have you benefited from it?
I feel free. I feel like I can exhale, and you know, I just took a trip to California to do exactly that, and just to, you know, just kick my feet up, relax, chill, be around family, talk about my problems, you know. And you know, I came back and I just, you know, I have like a new fresh walk. Like I just feel like I'm free from everything that I was feeling, and it's just a good feeling. Like it's just, I feel again like I can exhale, and it just feels good to breathe again.
How did you feel once you posted that? Was that the start of you feeling free?
Yeah.
Once you said it?
That was just like the beginning of my journey. When once I released it to social media, because I mean, of course you get those people like, hey, everything's okay, and you know, they start getting worried, and it's just like, well, you're a strong friend, you don't never cry, you never sad. And it's just like, well, you know, like I do cry and I do get sad, I do have feelings and emotions, so it's like to let people know that I'm human, you know. It's like it's invulnerable at that, you know. It just felt really good to let people see that side of me, instead of just, you know, hiding it and then, you know, getting further into depression. Then, you know, you're everybody like, dang, whatever happened to that photographer? Or, you know, and it's just like, I'm somewhere depressed or somewhere in the counseling session every night. So I'm really glad I was able to, or strong enough mentally to even just put that out there. And I'm glad that it was a thought, because I hope that it would have opened up doors for other people.
Yeah, open up doors for the conversation.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this. What do you feel you would benefit from me? What would you need? And the reason that I asked that, and I also asked you that, hold the people in your life accountable. You know, I believe that the relationships that you have with your family, with your friends, I believe iron sharpens iron, and which is scripture. I believe that to be so. That's what the word of God says. Moses, he had Aaron to hold his hand up when he couldn't, because he had a job to do. And that job was to help the children of Israel cross over into the promised land. But he knew that he had limitations in his life. He knew that he had things that could hold him back. And so God sent him an Aaron, someone who, when his limitations would come up, Aaron would, his strength would kick in where Moses was weak. And so I asked my family around me, what do you need from me? Because I want to be able to help you, you know, on your journey. I know that for me, God has sent beautiful people in my life that has helped, but they couldn't always help if they didn't know.
Yeah.
What would you need?
I guess for me, I mean, what you've given me thus far, I mean, I know this is the first time we talked about it on video, but we've talked. I mean, just prayer, you know, just, you know, encouragement, stuff like that. Just little small things go a long way with me. I'm not super big on extravagant things. I like small things, like word of encouragement, you know, hey, I'm praying for you. Like little stuff like that picks me up. I mean, that's just, I don't know. You know, if you have the time.
If you have the time, make the time. Make the time, because I believe that God gives us what we need when we need it. The thing about it is to make sure you're okay so that you can give it. I thought about that the other day when I didn't feel like posting and I didn't feel like talking, and I said, okay, you better get up, because someone's waiting on that. Someone's waiting on that smile. Someone's waiting on that encouragement. Who knows, you know, what they're needing, and it be from you that they need it, or it be from you that what they need came from. Make sure you're doing the right thing and you're in the place where you need to be. You're in position so that you can do your job. For me, that has been why I do what I do now and why I've answered the call. All right, we're concluding this today. I know the conversation is going to keep going. Of course, September is Suicide Awareness Month, and there are a lot of factors that feed into suicide. It never starts at that moment with someone who has contemplated suicide. it could come from some dark place in their life. There are people who suffer with depression severely, anxiety severely, phobias, fears severely, that lead them to that. But then it can also be some kind of milestone in their life that takes them down this dark road. And for me, it has been my mission now to make sure I can get ahead of that and offer myself as a sacrifice to be able to say it doesn't have to be that way. It could be another way. And so I am so grateful that Shedrick D jumped on board to have this conversation. This is our first conversation, but I want you to stay tuned. We have a lot of beautiful things coming, because it has been my hope to be able to offer to him, and in me offering this to him, be able to share with you ways that you can strengthen your mental health, strengthen yourself, so that you can stand up under the weight of success. So thank you, Dee, for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Yay! And so this isn't a talk show, but this is for us to be able to talk about it. All right? I want you to subscribe, because we have more coming, okay? Subscribe to my channel, Marci Lynn Jackson, okay? And follow me on Instagram, marcilynnjackson.com. And if you do follow me, well, that you do follow me on marcilynnjackson.com, you see all those beautiful pictures that you guys DM me about and message me about. That's him, all right? So you can also follow him, Driven Image, on Instagram. But you have a whole lot of other handles. So what are your handles?
So Driven Image is my primary Instagram, which is my photography and stuff. Then I have my personal page, which is at Father Shed, and then my clothing line page is the Blase Company.
All right. Thank you, guys. God bless you, and I hope to see you soon. Bye bye.